Welcome everyone to our November edition of Power Hour. I am Tessa Chappell. I live outside in Indianapolis, Indiana. So I'm here in the Midwest where winter is officially here, unofficially by date, but it feels like it. It's cold. And Megan here is outside in Seattle, Washington. So she's a little bit farther west than me, same time zone as some of you. So as a reminder, I know some of you are new to Power Hour. So as a synopsis, we're going to do 2 layouts. I'll go first. I warm you up and then Megan will go second. You're welcome to ask any questions on chat. It's most helpful if you have your handouts printed. So you can reference the layouts, measurements, and whatnot. We will record this and send it out tomorrow. And of course, we want to see your ideas posted in our ideas group and have a little bit of a challenge for you for posting, which we'll tell you about at the end. So we should probably get started so we can get through both of them in 1 hour. That's our power hour. If I can flip me down to my table, there we go. So I have my layouts printed out. So when I was going through tonight, I wanted to actually use photos. And I grabbed some pictures of my kitties. You guys have seen them. They've made appearances before behind me in Power Hour. But I put together this layout using Fur Buddies and some paper that I think came out of the old coffee house pack. It's 10 by 12. And so I have 6 photos on this page. And tonight I'm going to do my version. And so we're going to get a little bit more photos than this even on our page. So what do we need to get started? You need 2 background papers. And tonight I'm going to be using kind of a mix. I'll show you in a second. This is a 10 by 12 sheet. A lot of us have old Creative Memories papers. So if you have old 10 by 12 and they work with what you have, it's a good way to use some of those up. If not, you'll just trim down a paper to 10 by 12. And then I had a scrap here of this print that coordinated with Fur Buddy. So you'll want kind of a coordinating print that we're going to use as a big photo map. And then a little bit of coordinating cardstock if needed to put down behind your border maker. And if you want a little bit of mats, and you're going to see that cardstock coming down here, down the edge. So as far as tools, we're going to use a 12-inch trimmer. I'm going to pull out one of my decorative blades, of course. If you don't have decorative blade, you can keep a straight cut. I said knockout or edger border maker cartridge. So if you're new to the border maker, we have 3 styles of cartridges. I used paw prints on this. This is what we consider a knockout. It knocked out the print. It did not actually punch anything clean. I have no chain. It didn't actually do anything to the edge. I have a straight edge here. So I consider this a knockout. And then I have 2 border stickers here. These are optional. You obviously can leave them off. Or if you want to add in some chain style border makers, you could put chain styles in here too. Or you can just add in strips of paper also. So we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go. We're also going to use the custom cutting systems with the large circle to make this journaling box right here. You could use an oval, or you could probably throw in another shape. Or if you don't have any of those, you can journal directly down right here on your page. So let me show you what I have pulled out for tonight. Many of you know, you've heard me, you know I have a lot of soccer. You're going to see some soccer layouts tonight. I went through and found these prints, which came out of the old Creative Memories Evergreen Mix and Match. So the back side with the dots, which I liked, but this is a tonal star print that I thought would be good for soccer. Then I dug through and I have this 10 by 12 sheet. I think this also came out of the old coffee house pack. It's actually a single-sided, but you're only going to see this top side. I needed a coordinating print for that block I put over here to the side, and I pulled out this chevron paper out of the Fanatic, which was a sports pack from Creative Memories. Because I looked through and I wanted some border stickers to use, and I have these from the Fanatic border stickers also. So you're going to see me use some of these. So when I went to choose my border maker for tonight, I opted to get the star, kind of the classic. It's a knockout. An edger would work fine too on this design. If you don't and you just have a chain style, you can use the chain and you can just overlap it along the bottom. And then I grabbed some charcoal cardstock as my accent, and then I have a little bit of white also to do my journal box with. So to start the layout, I'm going to get my base papers out of the way because I don't need to do anything to them until I'm ready to put together. I'm going to need my border stickers, but I'm really starting with my 10 by 12 sheet. And I'm going to start by punching one edge of this with the border maker. This is a real pale green. You can't tell. I'm going to go to the full 12-inch length of my 10 by 12. And this one is nice because it leaves me these stars, and I might want the stars for my layout later. So I am going to pull these off and pull them to the side. I'm done with my border maker. Now I can set this to the side. I'm going to need my trimmer and then also my coordinating cardstock. So this is where I want to choose one of my decorative blades. I'm going to do a cut along this edge. So when I look through my options here, I think I'm actually going to stick with the wave. That's the one I used on the layout that you see on the guide. And I just want to give myself a real thin edge. So I'm only going to cut off as much as I need to give myself that decorative edge. So one option here, if you're using a knockout or an edger, when I put my paper on my base paper, you're going to see through your design. You can see through my stars, and that's why I said it's optional if you want to cut a piece of cardstock to put underneath. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I have my charcoal. I'm going to give myself, again, I give myself a little bit of a wavy edge. And then I need about 1.5 inches to give myself some clearance underneath. And it's fine if both edges are wavy, it's going to be layered. And then if you look through the directions, on the directions, I did my layout prep all for this page first, but I do need down here in step 7, I want 2 1/2-inch strips that I will use out of this cardstock. So since I have my trimmer out and since I have my cardstock, I'm going to go ahead and do step number 7. So it's 2 1/2-inch strips. So I already have one edge of the wavy. So I need to flip back to my straight blade to give myself 1/2 inch. And then I have a straight edge here, so I need another wavy edge at 1/2 inch. If you registered and you did not get the handouts, there's an email sent last night. And so you would want to search your junk mail or your spam or look under promotions. If you got the email that gave you the directions for tonight from us, you should have that email also. We will also send it out again tomorrow. And then before I put my trimmer away, so I have my 2 1/2-inch strips, and then you can see down here in the photo on the handout, I have a mat here. This is an optional mat too. It can pop out one of the photos. And I know some of you don't like to cut mats right away. Not sure how your photos are going to be. I know I want this mat, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it since I have my trimmer out. I have this wavy edge here, and I decided in my demo layout to keep that wavy edge. It just gave a little bit more dimension on the layout, but I do need my straight blade in here to cut the rest of them. And I like thinner mats, and so my mat that I'm showing you is going to be 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. I should be done with the trimmer for now, so I can set that to the side. And a couple other steps I'm going to do as my prep is make the 2 half circles for my journaling box. So it's a number 3 circle. We label ours smallest to biggest. The number 3 is the largest. And then I'm using the red blade and the blue blade. I only need about half of the circle. I am doing the blue blade first, so it's going to give me, you're going to need a little bit of clearance on your circle. I'm doing mine a little bit more than half, so it gives me a little bit of space to overlap underneath the large mat that you'll see. And I'm going to use the same template, and I'm going to cut it out of white. See where I did this one for my demo. I'm going to do this one off on the same page, and I'm doing red. So the same template on the outside with red. It makes it a little bit thinner. So let me review the pieces that I just cut. I have my 2 half-inch strips. I have my 2 pieces for the journaling box. I have my 10 by 12, and then I have my 1.5 inches that I'm going to layer. Okay, all good with that much? Okay, so now I'm going to adhere some of these pieces together. So for this on my 10 by 12 sheet, I want this layered behind it to give myself a little edge, and it's going to pop those stars out with charcoal. So I'm going to use my mat as a guide, a little bit of a ruler. Put that down there, and I'm going to put some repositional tape down the back of my stars. There's my green one. I'm going to give myself maybe about 1/4 inch. This is completely optional how much you want to overlap it. The key is just that you get it on there as straight as you can. You can also use the T ruler if that helps you line things up. I think for me, for this one, I'm actually okay just using my mat. That here to the back. And then this is the point, if you've gotten to this point of deciding how you want to put on your border stickers or what you want to put on your border stickers. On my example layout, I have a border sticker here at the top, and I have a different one down here. So I use 2 different ones. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to put the grass here along the top of my stars. I am going to use my T ruler to help me line up with that. I think because I'm right-handed, it's actually going to be helpful if I flip this. The T ruler, we just get these off Amazon. They're pretty cheap. We have a link on our ideas group if you didn't grab one already. Line my paper up underneath here. That's going to give me a straight edge to adhere my border sticker with. So I'm going to do this grass one. And then sometimes before you put them on, some of these border stickers are really a full 12 inches. Sometimes they go a little bit over 12 inches, and sometimes they're a little under 12 inches. So before I actually adhere this, I need to double check. That looks like the grass really is going to go a full edge to edge. When I put on the Fur Buddy stickers, they were slightly short. So if I wanted it to be centered, I just started. See how easy going along the ruler helps me keep that in line. And then here along the top, I want to put one of these star ones too. And I want it to be right near the edge. And so again, because I'm right-handed, I'm going to put my paper around. Myself a little bit of clearance from the top of the page. I'm looking because I can't really trust, I need to look at the ruler more than my mat because I know, so I'm looking, you probably can't tell underneath here to make sure my paper really is even down the ruler because I'm going to get one chance to put this on here. And if it's crooked, it's going to be crooked. This sticker actually has some little inserts that come out, little extra stickers in it. So I'm going to pop all those out and then I can decide later if I want to put them back in. I'm going to go pretty near the top so that I have as much space as possible between my border stickers for my photos. Yeah, we have an Amazon link in the ideas group. We can share again tomorrow if you want one of the T rulers. They are really helpful for me for putting down the border stickers. So I have my 10 by 12 ready. So I have my 2 border stickers. I have my border. What I'm going to do now is cut it. I'm going to cut mine into 2 sections. I want a 4-inch section and I want an 8-inch section. Before you cut, one thing that you want to look at, this star is the same as the paw prints in that the border maker gives me the full 2 inches and I get the full design, right? And so when I cut 4 inches, I'm going to cut right here between these stars. So this is where it's more important for you to decide where you want to cut your paper in half. Half of it's going to go on this layout, half of it's going to go on this layout. So as you look at the design you chose, you might decide that it's better to cut it at 3.5 or at 5, or maybe you're not going to measure. You're just going to pick a spot where it makes sense in the design to cut it in half. Some of the designs kind of cross between the border punches, if that makes sense. Like, so right here I would have cut, there would be a design. You can really go one way or the other. I think your layout will look fine because we are making a layered layout. It's going to be overlapping. So I'm going to cut 4 inches off. More importantly, I'm going to make sure I'm coming down through my stars. If you have the Creative Memories trimmer, you can use your little sight line also to make sure you're cutting where you want to cut. So a 4-inch section, and I had an 8-inch section. And then my last step before I grab my base papers is I am going to glue my journal box together. Yeah, pardon my kids if you can hear them. They're all home now and they're playing a game in the other room. And I've told them 5 times I'd be on Zoom. But they're in there having a great time. Megan always tells me you can't hear them as much as I can hear them. Okay, so now I'm ready to put my base paper. Clear my space off. Grab my base papers. I haven't cut that one big map print, but we are going to put this together before so we can look a little bit at our measurements. When I adhere this down, I'm going to adhere my 4-inch section to my left side. I'm centering about 1 inch from the top, 1 inch from the bottom. I'm going to use regular tape. Here along the edge. And then to adhere my next one, I'm actually going to scoop my paper together. It's more important to me that I have these pretty much the same than it is to look at my measurements now. I have my base together. So let's go back a little bit and look at my example layout. So on the example layout, I would adhere this right here, and then I have this big space for the mat. If you notice, compared to my example, I have a little bit different sizing in my border stickers. So if I want to cut a mat that centers itself right in this space. So on my demo, this was a 4x6 mat, but I'm not quite sure I have that much space. So let me figure out where I just set the ruler y'all saw me using. I'm going to see how much space I have to make my mat. If you want it to be centered, I can still do 7 inches and clear both borders. It's going to be tight. And then of course I have all the space I want. I can still go 9 inches out to the side also. If you chose a different width, so this, let me show you too how my pictures are going to lay out. On this side, I chose 3. So on the example, I have 4x6s. And then tonight, I actually cut down a couple of them that are 3x4s. So I'm going to stack like this. So that 7 inches easily clears my photos, and 9 inches will give me a mat here. So depending on what photos you use, if you're not sure yet, you might want to wait to cut the 9x7. Mine does have a directional print, so I have to decide which way I want it to lay in my layout. Do I want it to go like this? I want like this. I want my chevron to go horizontal. So I need this to be 9 inches wide. One other tip you'll notice too, I should mention this. On this print that I used, I did a 9x7, but when I centered my photos, can you see that I was able to clear, you can see almost like a whole row of parts around the top and the bottom. And so when you're cutting out your 9x7, you can look to see if the paper you're using actually has a design that you'll want to center your photos in. It meant for this page, I actually cut a little bit off of this edge before I cut the 9x7. So as I look at this is the same thing. The edge of this paper has kind of this awkward edging of the chevron. So I'm going to give myself a straight cut so that I give myself kind of a fresh design start. And then I'm going to give myself a 9"x7. So that's my 9" wide. And so as I look at 7 inches, it's kind of the same thing. I think I could center in with this chevron line. So I'm going to give myself a clean chevron edge. This paper is out of the Fanatic pack, but my green stars came out of the Mix and Match Evergreen. 7 inches. This was a little bit of a challenge for me to pick out papers tonight because the Mix and Match packs actually did not mix and match very well within each other. Like there was not really another green that I was going to pull out of here that was going to look very good. Okay, now I can adhere it all together. So I'm going to adhere my journal box. I'm going to go pretty close to the edge here, not all the way. And I'm going to adhere my 9x7, overlapping the edge of that. I'm centering it between my border stickers. And now it's time for the photos. So I hope you will all be sufficiently impressed that I have photos tonight. It's not always true. I already, not only do I have them, I have them trimmed. Like, come on, big deal. You know, Campbell plays soccer. I have so many photos and they all sometimes look so similar. And so then I was having to go through and decide what to do. On this left side, on the bone, on the layout I did, these are 4x6s. I trimmed just a hair of it off, like not even down to 5 3/4. And you can fit 3 of them. If you're using 4x6 vertical, you could fit 2 6-inch that way. However, I decided I had to get more than 3 even. And so I cut these down to 4x3 so I can get 4 of them down the edge over here. And then I will put one of them right here. I have 2 here. I can't decide. I might peekaboo pocket those 2. And I cut that mat. That's probably a berry. I can put my mat of her right here. And I will do one of these 4x6s, probably on a peekaboo. And then I can decide where I want to sit these photos over here. And then what my final step will be is I have these 2 little strips. So I'm going to put my photos down first, and then I'm going to adhere my strips along the edges of photos. And I'm going to actually put the wavy edge over the photo. Usually we adhere kind of the opposite direction, but I like the look of the decorative edge against the photo. These photos came from Shutterfly, but admittedly, a lot of the times you see the pictures I use, I do print at home here on my Canon selfie because I'm not organized enough to actually have them ahead of time. Fun fact, I bought Megan's Canon selfie from her because she has something else that she likes better. And I was happy to take that. These were originally 4x6s. I've just already cropped them down to 4x3. And I am going to use regular tape so that it sticks the best. It is going to kind of go on my photos. So this is a long commitment once you put down your strips. And again, I'm looking here. So as I decide where to put this, it's going to overlap the photos, right? And but I am looking at my design. I'm going to cover up a whole row of stars so that it leaves complete stars along that edge. It kind of pops out the star design. There. I did not dress to match my layout, but thank you, Sandy. I did coordinate well tonight. So I'm not going to glue this one down because I need to decide about the peekaboo pocket. And then when I do my peekaboo pocket, we have 4x6 and I flap this open. I will probably do some journaling here, or else I will go back and I have to remember, I think this was a tournament. It may have been the tournament they won. I'll have to remember, I'll have to ask Campbell what the details are. I could do a 4x6 journaling on top here with the title and put that on top and then flap it open so you see both photos. So I'll have to decide on that part later. I'm going to adhere my photos over here. And again, you can see how the 4x6 does center, so you can see kind of my full chevron design top and bottom. These are also 4x3, so I'm going to stack them over here. So I was able to get 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 soccer photos on one 2-page layout. I will let you guys go do Megan's layout, but I have obviously a little embellishment. I have these stars here that came out of the border makers. I could throw a row of stars around here, especially if I don't need to journal here. If I'm going to do it over here, I would have this extra space. If I do decide to journal there, I could just do top and bottom and give myself some space here. Add a little accent if you want, depending on what you chose to use. Any questions? So you guys are working along, all good. I can't wait to see what you make. I took my full half hour. Let you guys finish that up, and we'll turn you over to Megan and power through.
Well, hello, everybody. I am Meggan Tessa. As Tessa said, I'm up in the Seattle area. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm from Seattle area. It's going to rain again. So we are just south of where all the flooding was up in southern British Columbia and northern Washington. We're hit pretty hard last weekend. So we're hopeful that that won't happen again.
How often do you guys get snow?
We should see the past that we've been here, this will be, I think, our 7th winter, maybe. And we have seen a significant snow at least once of 5 of those 7. So from the record, from the weather people, they tell us that that's a little unusual. So normally Seattle would not see annual snow events like that. So anyway, my kids love it. We came from Arizona and didn't have a whole lot of snow options. So my kids enjoy that. And that should happen probably, in February when you're visiting. So yeah, I'm sure it'll be all good. All right. So this is the layout that I have to share with you guys. And once again, I mean, you saw Tessa using some of those small photos. I show that as an option. It's always a great way to include those smaller, to get more photos on a page. So somebody asked about describing significant snow. One year we had the snowpocalypse in 2020. We had, or 2019 was snowpocalypse. We accumulated over a 1-week period about 15 inches of snow, which is pretty good for us. Other times, significant snow, I'm talking 5 to 6 inches, and it sticks around long enough that my kids can play. And it shuts down school. So that's what I consider significant snow. So back with the layout here, though, we talk about these smaller photos. Getting those collages built on those 4x6s, if you send them off a regular print, is a great way to do that. And maybe we'll, in the Facebook group, mention some different ways for how you can get that done when you're ordering photos, how you can order those small prints along with your 4x6s. So this layout, we're going to need 2 background pages. So I show my sample is with the Snowbound collection, and what I'm going to be using for my the one I'm putting together, I am going to be using the Joy to the World, or excuse me, Joy to the World. And so I will be using the one side is the all the little Christmas icons. The other side is this kind of a neutral plaid. I'm going to be using the neutral plaid as my background. And then we're going to need 1 piece of 12 by 12 paper that you like both sides of, because we're going to work with both sides. And it's going to be kind of this background mat that's on both sides. You can see the larger mat. We're going to be using part of it to the reverse side to make our border bars across the top and the bottom. So you're going to want to like both sides. So I am choosing the green paper that has the red berries. I think that's super pretty. And what's really nice is this other side has just kind of a, a neutral green print on there. So that will work really well. And then we're going to need a tonal print. You can also use a cardstock. We're going to need a tonal piece here. So you can see this blue kind of a second mat that I have on here. And so I'm going to use still from the Joy of the World collection, I'm using this tonal red color paper. The other side is the beige paper with the white flowers. So those are the 4 pieces of designer paper that I'm using. And you could make obviously any substitutions you need. So I don't need the background papers. I am going to set those aside for the moment. And I'm going to start with the, what I called in the directions, I list as the snowflake paper. It's the one that we would use both sides of. And so for me, that's going to be this patterned paper that has the red berries. That's the one I'm going to be using both sides of. And so since I'm using both sides, I need to take the pattern into account. So for this front page, pattern doesn't really matter because it doesn't matter which direction I go with it. The back side, there is a little bit of a pattern to this, but for the most part, it honestly doesn't really matter whether my strips are going to come across this way or if they come across this direction. So I'm not going to worry about it too much. But if you do have a pattern that you need to worry about, I guess my recommendation for you is going to be thinking about when we make our big rectangles. So imagine a big rectangle. We're going to cut out a frame. You can see here, we're cutting out a frame. And this inside little rectangle here from our frame, we're going to slice in half and rotate those 90 degrees. So my suggestion to you is if you have a pattern, then hopefully that pattern will actually be what you use for the front, a directional pattern. And that'll be what you're looking at. So when I'm looking at this, if I want this to be my top, I'm going to be cutting this direction to make my 2 big vertical bars. And then I will let the pattern on the back fall into how it works. So I apologize if that gets to be a little confusing. It's so hard to kind of know what different types of scenarios you may have with your pattern, your paper. I always will recommend using with non-directional the first time you do a layout, especially if you're not sure. But just in case you did grab some directional paper, just something to keep in mind when you're doing your cuts. So I'm going to pick out my layout and put it to the side. I'm going to grab my trimmer. We'll be using the straight blade. So if you still have your decorative blade in there from Tessa's layout, you'll want to take that out. And oh my gosh. Oh, there it is. That whole thing, you put your trimmer down and then you put a piece of 12 by 12 paper over it and then you can't find your trimmer. All right, so here we go. We got my trimmer here. The first thing I need to do is I need to just follow my cut guide. I am going to go ahead. I'm going to cut off 1.5 inches. I'm going to cut off 1.5 inches from my paper. So I am going to go ahead and measure over on the right side of my trimmer, come over here to 1.5 inches. And I will go ahead and cut. This is scrap. So I'm just going to set it off to the side. And now I'm going to rotate my paper 90 degrees. And I'm going to cut off 1/2 inch. So 1/2 inch is to the first solid line to the right of the paper or to the right of the trimmer. 1/2 inch. I've got something stuck in my throat. I'm so sorry. All right, hopefully that works. So now I've cut off that 1/2 inch scrap is also scrapped. So now I should have a piece that is 10.5 inches. It is 10.5 inches wide and is 11.5 inches long. So make sure when you do this, you can put it in here to your measurement and you're going to see it comes over to 10.5. Right over here, it'd be 10.5. And that's how you know you're going to be cutting the right way. I want to make sure I'm cutting it with my long edge on the side. My short edge is across the top. And I am going to cut it at 5¼ inches. So now I should have two pieces that are 5¼ inch wide and 11½ inches long. So the next step is that we're going to do is we need to cut out the frame. We need to cut out a 1-inch frame. So we've done this before in previous power hours. This is definitely one of those techniques. It's nice to be able to do with your trimmer. I'm going to be doing a 1-inch frame. So I'm going to just be cutting a segment out from the middle, leaving a 1-inch border all the way around. For me, the best, easiest way to do this, I prefer to turn my trimmer to the side so it's horizontal to my table. And I'm going to bring my paper down to 1 inch below the cutting guide, the cut line. So I'm down here to 1 inch below and I will go ahead, I'm going to shut my blade guide. And I'm going to move, the 1 inch is really, really easy. I'm actually not going to worry about, I've talked about using binder clips. You can put your binder clips in place if you wanted to. But since I'm working with two different sizes, I've got a long cut and a short cut, I am going to go ahead and just leave and trim it without the binder clips. And the tip I want to tell you here is the end. You can see from the overhead top, my blade housing lines up with my paper here. So I can trim from the edge where my blade housing meets up with my paper. The right side of my blade housing right here lines up with my paper. I can start cutting there. That's 1 inch. The 1 inch from this, it is 1 inch from where the blade line starts to each end of the blade housing. So 1 inch to the right, 1 inch to the left. I can use the end of my blade housing to help me with that trim. So I'm going to start it, line it up. I'm going to push down and come over until my left edge of my blade housing lines up to my paper. And then I can stop. And then I can rotate and repeat it with this short side. So line it up at 1 inch here. Bring my blade housing back over. I've lined it up at 1 inch below the cut guide or the trimming line. Line up my right edge of my blade housing with the right edge of my paper. Push down and drag it over. Don't have to go very far this time. I'm going to go until that blade housing lines right up on that left edge. And I'm just going to keep repeating that process on all 4 sides. One last one on this one. This is kind of one of those techniques. The first time you do it, it takes a little bit of effort, but then it becomes kind of a second nature. And honestly, those 1 inch frames are some of the easiest to cut. So I've already done one, and I'll repeat it on this next one. So I've got my second big rectangle, lining it up at 1 inch below the trim guide, lining up the right edge of my blade housing, cutting over until I meet that left edge. And I just keep working all the way around till I've done all 4 sides. So now I have 2 frames and I have 2 center pieces. Now these center pieces should both be about 3 1/4 inches wide. Based on the measurements, cutting out that 1 inch frame should give you 2 pieces that are 3 1/4 inches wide, and they are 9.5 inches long. What we want to do is we want to cut each one of them in half lengthwise. So I've already done the math for you. 3 1/4 inches, if we divide it in half, is 1 5/8 inches. So it's 3 1/4 divided by 2 is 1 5/8 inches. So 5/8 is we come over to our, we would come over to the 1 1/2, and it's 1/8 past that 1 1/2. So there I went ahead and cut it in half. And I'll do the same thing for this other one, this other piece. I'm going to come over here to 1 5/8 inches. And trim in half. So these pieces, these strips, we'll flip them over, and they're going to be the border bars that we put across the top and the bottom. So that's where we're getting, just conserving some of the paper, just using the 1 sheet to get us all of our decorative elements, taking advantage of the fact that we have double-sided paper. So the next piece that we're going to be cutting is what I call the tonal aqua paper. And it's the tonal paper that sits on top of these frames that we're making. So for this sample, I told you that I'm going to be using this decorative, the red tonal paper from the Joy to the World collection. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut off a 2 1/2 inch strip that's going to become just scrap paper for us. So 2 1/2 inches. 2 1/2 inches. This is just a scrap piece. Save for another project. And then I'm going to need to rotate the paper, and I'm going to need to cut off 1 inch. I want my overall height of my pieces here to be 11 inches. So I'm trimming off 1 inch. Again, this is a scrap piece. So now I have a piece of paper that is going to be, it is 9 1/2 inches wide by 11 inches tall. So make sure when you're doing this next cut, because we're going to cut this in half, which will be 4 3/4. I want to make sure that I'm cutting the right direction. So I'm going to double check here. I need this top edge should be 9 1/2 inches wide. And that's how I know I've got the right direction. I'm coming all the way down here to 11 inches. Got my long side is running parallel to my trimming edge. And my short side is up here at the top. So I'm going to slide this over, and I'm going to trim it at 4 3/4 inch. So 4 3/4 inch are those 2 pieces. So now I have everything cut for my layout. One of the things I do talk about in here, now my initial sketch up here at the top and the sample, actually you guys should maybe have a sample that shows a different layout on it. I think I updated it after I printed it. Maybe, I can't remember. I'll show you my sample. Here you can see I added a border element across each one of the top and the bottom. So that is something, if you want to be able to add, to keep that in mind. I do have a border element created. I didn't want to take the time. So the border that I use for this snowbound layout, I use the winter vine. It is a border a punch from a few years ago. It is retired. I'm really sorry that I used something so lovely and so retired, and as Tessa will tell you, somewhat difficult to find. But I really thought it was pretty, and I love using it in the winter layouts. So I went ahead and used that, but you could use any kind of a border punch that you want to use there that matches your paper and your theme. So since I've got a Christmas theme going, I went ahead and I put together, I wanted 4 borders that match. So I went ahead and made some candy cane borders, and I made them out of firecracker shimmer. And then I used white shimmer on the back. So you've got, and this is from the Creative Memories blog. They have, I certainly did not come up with this idea of doing, but it's, you punch one with the like red cardstock or red shimmer paper of the candy canes. And then you'll punch 2 white, layer one up high and one down low. And it gives you that effect as if they have that nice border on top and bottom. So I really like that look. And I thought it would look really nice against this the green background there. So I went ahead, since it was a little bit more intensive to make these borders, I went ahead and made them while I was sitting on a Zoom call last night for my son's high school athletics. Got those all made. If you're not sure about your border element, I'm going to show you how to put your layout together where you can come back in and add that border element. So we'll put the main layout together, leaving with strategic use of adhesive to make sure that you can add that border element later. So I've got all my pieces. And now what I'm going to do is come back, grab my background papers. I am going to grab my trimming mat too, and I'm going to use the T-ruler this time as well. I actually found it, had it readily accessible to me. So I am going to use the T-ruler. I'm going to line up my paper here. I'm going to work on the left page first. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and stick down one of our 1-inch frame pieces. And we're going to be about 1/4 of an inch from the top and the bottom and the side here. So I've got 1/4 inch from the top, 1/4 inch from the bottom, and 1/4 inch from the left side. Now I've got a grid pattern to my paper, so it's going to make lining up my things really easy. If you've got the 13 by 13 mat, you can see your lines sticking out from the edge of your paper. You can also come in with the T-ruler here and make sure you can get it all lined up, just as Tessa mentioned, getting everything lined up nice and square. So I'm going to use my T-ruler here in a minute for another piece. Since I've got a grid pattern to my paper, I am good to go. I'm going to be using just regular adhesive here. I don't plan to move this around. So we'll go ahead and just use regular adhesive for this piece. And I'm going to come in 1/4 inch from the bottom and 1/4 inch from the side, making sure that I'm keeping my pattern in mind. I can see that grid pattern. Looks good. So now the next thing I need to do is, before I put down, ultimately, my tonal pieces are going to go here. But before I do that, I want to go ahead and I need to put down the pieces that I cut out from the middle. So I've got these 2 pieces that I cut out from the middle. I'm going to flip them over, and you can see it doesn't quite reach across the entire page. But because I have a piece of paper that I'm going to stick over it, I can cut it. I'm going to make a cut. I tell you 2 inches. In all reality, it doesn't matter that much. You just want to make sure you're going to cut in the middle here. So I say at 2 inches, I'll cut it at 2 inches. I'm just using scissors. It doesn't need to be super straight. I'm going to cut here, and then I'll bring this over, and you can see how that is. Yeah, don't cut any more than 2 inches. And you can see how that's going to give that illusion that we have that 12-inch piece all the way across. I will use my T-square here, and I'm going to come in. I say it needs to be 3/4 inch from the top. I'm going to come in with my T-square put my T-square in place there, and then I'm going to flip over my pieces here. I'm going to use repositionable on this part just in case I need to move things around a little bit. I'm flush on the left edge, making sure my T-ruler is sitting there at 3/4 inch. And then I'm going to go flush on the right edge, right up against that ruler. Makes it super easy to know that I am straight all the way across. Now I can do the same thing at the bottom. Now I'm going to go ahead, instead of cutting it 2 inches, I'm going to cut closer to 1.5 inches. And I'm going to put the T-square down here, and 3/4 inch, making sure I'm lined up on my cutting mat, 3/4 inch, and put these pieces in place. All right. So now if you have a border element, here, this is where you would go ahead and put in that border element across if you have your 12-inch border elements. If you don't have them done already, what you can do is when you put your adhesive on your middle paper here, only put it in the middle section. And then you can easily just lift up, put your border down, and then adhere the top piece there. The Christmas paper, so I'm just looking at Michelle's question. You could leave this inside. You can play around with it in various ways to whatever works if you want to see more of your paper. I sometimes like with some of the papers to leave I like having more of a solid on the top. It acts as a mat to my photos, and you certainly can make adjustments depending on the papers that you're using. So I'm going to attach my border before I put on my tonal red vertical pieces. And Tessa, guess what I forgot to do? She's not even paying attention anymore to me.
Change your tape.
I forgot to double check that I had enough tape, and I didn't get out another one to sit next to it. So it doesn't matter. I'm good. And you can see there how that works. So the candy cane backing, Barbara asked a question about the candy cane backing. And it is to make this border, it is from the Creative Memories blog. One of their layouts features the same border concept with the candy cane. You punch one red with the candy cane border cartridge, and then you punch 2 white. One of the whites is an upper shadow, and one of the whites is a lower shadow, and it gives you that effect as if you have it actually bordered all the way around. So at each one of these 12-inch borders actually has 3 candy canes punched for it. So that's why I didn't want to necessarily take the time to do it as part of the power hour, just because it's a lot of punching. So there's the left side page. We're going to do the same thing on the right side, just working on the other side. So we'll go ahead and get this put together. So Tessa, when you were talking about the pies, I'm going to admit the pie that is currently it's in my freezer right now because we've had it for a little while. We'll get it out on Christmas morning and let it thaw out. We just don't have enough room in our fridge to have it all day, this entire time. But I think this is our 3rd pumpkin pie. My husband starts buying those pies the second that he sees them at Costco.
You're on your third pumpkin pie from Costco this season?
Yes, the third one. And I told him to stop because we were going to OD on the pumpkin pie beforehand. And I have a really hard time, missing this. Now you guys have to remember too, I have, all of my kids love pumpkin pie. So we basically have 4 adults and a small beast of a 7-year-old who enjoy pumpkin pies. So we definitely can put away some pie when we want to. But I did. I told them to please stop because.
I mean, it's almost a vegetable. Right?
Well, it is almost a vegetable. If you really think about it too, sugar is also kind of like a vegetable too, right? I mean, it's a plant.
If you put whipped cream on it, you get some dairy.
Maybe that's okay. Here's the question to ask. Here's the big conundrum. Who is a Cool Whip versus whipped cream versus nothing on your pumpkin pie? That's what I want to know. That's my question for people tonight.
Okay, you put in the chat. I like the whipped cream, although I grew up on Cool Whip.
I don't know if I can be friends with you anymore.
It's kind of split. There's a lot of none. Some people don't even like pumpkin pie. Ready whip sometimes. So a lot of people eat it plain. Whipped cream. I'd have to scroll. Whipped cream might actually be the leader.
It wouldn't surprise me.
It's not overwhelming.
I am a little bit of a, I don't know. I really enjoy Cool Whip. My youngest, he likes it. We'll keep it in the freezer, and he thinks he's really cool when he gets some, like as a scoop, almost like ice cream of Cool Whip. Which is great because he doesn't really know the difference. And so I'm sure the cost is more expensive than ice cream, but I don't feel so bad giving him a little scoop of Cool Whip as compared to a scoop of ice cream.
Yeah, one person put Cool Whip. I think it's Wendy. It went by fast. My mom makes homemade whipped cream too. Like she actually whips it and it's good. It just doesn't keep very long. I can't bring it home with me.
No, and I would say that I don't mind homemade whipped cream. I think that's probably the biggest thing is that I grew up using Cool Whip. And I think it was probably because the women were so tired that when it came to the end of the day, they're like, hey, Cool Whip, just put it on your pie and be done.
I'm kind of like Angela too. She said that she likes a little pumpkin pie with her Cool Whip. I do put a pretty generous amount of
yes,
on my pumpkin pie.
I'm very generous as well. All right.
We gave my dad an ice cream maker for his birthday in October, and I told him I wanted pumpkin ice cream Thursday. So I am looking forward to that.
Yeah, but it's that time of year. You should be able to find it at the store.
But it's not homemade ice cream.
Well, that's true. That's true. My favorite is candy cane ice cream. I am a sucker for peppermint, so I get super excited when they come out with the candy cane. I can't remember which company it is that has real good candy cane ice cream. So there we go. Finishing up.
A legitimate question though. So can you, for those that are unfamiliar with repo, how do you feel like it lasts over time?
I have had no problems with repo on my layouts
that she's using.
I'm using regular right now just because I ran out of my repo and I'm too tired or I'm too lazy to get up and go get more. Regular tape, I actually default to just using repo a lot on stuff because then I'm not grabbing the wrong one. But I think it holds up fine. The big thing for me is that, once you put it in your album and your albums are closed, there's usually a little bit of pressure keeping everything in place. And then that stuff just sets up, I think, just fine.
I use a lot of repo, and I think in the end, it feels just as permanent. It leaves markings when I pull it back up. So
it does. It is. I mean, it's when they say repositionable, you've got to be careful if you use it on any kind of pattern paper. It will more than likely lift the print, and it does come off a cardstock really nice. You can usually just rub it right off of cardstock. but the designer paper, especially on things that have a more of a full pattern, like, you know, like this red, if I were to put repo on here and then try to wipe it off, you would see little dots where it was left. All right, so there's my layout, all ready for some photos to be added. There's lots of wonderful stickers and things like this to go with mats, all sorts of fun ways to add your details. I'm not going to get too crazy with that right now, just because Tessa talked so long in the beginning that I had to, see how I do that there? I throw you under the bus every single time.
I know. I don't know. I didn't think my layout was really going to take this minutes, obviously.
Well, we got to go at a pace that everybody, like we said, we're putting it together for the second or the third time. Everybody else is starting from the beginning, so we don't want to go too fast.
So all right, guys. Pie so we can go slower.
I know. When we start talking food, everything slows down a little bit. I am going to toss this back over to Tessa so she can wrap things up for us.
I will say that was a very fast hour. I don't know if I'm just on holiday time or what, but
it does. It always goes by fast, though.
Yeah. Okay. So I loved the conversation. I feel like, and thank you all for commenting in the chat. I like to see how everybody thinks, even if it's just pumpkin pie and whipped cream. So what can we do next? So for those of you new to Power Hour, you know, we do this every month. The next one is December 14th. That will be our only December event. We do like to focus on family and tradition, and so we don't have any other class planned. However, Winter Frolic, you should all register now so you can just tune out for the holidays. Winter Frolic is an 8-week challenge. So we did it this summer. We had over 300 people join us. And what we do is post a challenge, 2 projects every week. One is a challenge, which is a little bit more original content. And then on Thursday, we do a throwback. So we pull out one of our favorite layouts, we redo it, revise it. So every week you get 2 layouts to do. It's on your own, kind of your own challenge. And we have 8 weeks of that. And then you post your layouts in the exclusive group, and you're in drawings for prizes, and everyone loves to see everyone else's, and you'll get comments. Everyone likes your layouts. There's a lot of good feedback, I think, and it's just fun to see. So the reason we're doing it in January, February is because those months are kind of boring and they're cold, and in the summer we need motivation to work, and the winter we need things to entertain us. So that's why we decided to do Winter Frolic again. I'm about to tune out a little bit for the holidays. Megan is also with family, and so if you register now, you'll be ready to go. So it starts the beginning of January 4th, I think. But we are going to do some sort of Zoom for everyone that's registered the weekend of that first weekend in January, probably the Sunday. I don't have my calendar in front of me, but we will be deciding that here shortly, what that will be. So if you're signed up already, you're good to come to the Zoom crop. And then it's 8 weeks through January and February, most of those 8 months. It's only $35. You get a lot of ideas. You get the benefit of the group. And you'll be in the drawings for $100 product codes or free classes from us. That's what Winter Frolic is. I know a lot of you were in it. You can give your own testimonials. You'll see people posting in the group for that. Tomorrow we will send out all of these handouts and the recording, so you'll get them. And so I want to throw in a little bit of a challenge. So now that we've rolled through a year, and we wanted to start hashtagging each month. So when people come into the group, they can click the hashtag and it'll pull up all of the layouts done with that Power Hour, so you can see all of the different versions. And so we're going to do a contest. If you hashtag your layout, then we will do a drawing. No matter where you live, you don't have to be in the US. As long as I can mail to you, I will mail you a free pack of embellishments if you post your layout from tonight. So if you do both of them, you're entered twice, because I'm just going to see how many posted. So Megan, what did we decide the hashtag was? I don't think we did. Are we going to do the full word November 21?
It's November 2021.
Power Hour.
That's the PH.
Okay. We had to add the year in there because now we're rolling in through a second year. If you did ever post a Power Hour in the layout and you want to go back and edit it and put in what month, it helps. You don't really have to do that. But so no, it's in the chat right now. Power Hour 2021 PH. If you post your layouts, how long should I give them? For sure through the holiday weekend. I think Monday.
Yeah, I would say the 30th. Let's get this wrapped up before December starts so that Yeah. So, but the 30th. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yeah. So if you post by the 30th, you'll be in the drawing. I'll send you free embellishments. If you win and I tag you, you'll probably have to message me. You do not have to have photos on them. Now that is a requirement of Winter Frolic. We're going to make you put photos on your pages, because that is one thing that people, they love to make all these layouts. How many of you make your layouts and then stick them in a box? Helen, you're nodding your head. I know you're guilty. You put them in your box. You think someday I'll put photos on them. That's one thing that we make you do in the challenges, is actually get your photos out and printed on there. So
I have a question.
Yep.
Is it hashtag November 2021 PH or
Correct.
Power Hour spelled out?
Looks like we're doing PH because it's less things to type. And when we post ours in the group tomorrow, I'll put the hashtag on there, or tonight, and then you can always copy that also to get it. And she has it in the chat too. So, and we'll try to help put them in. We're going to post in the ideas group. So it's the scrapbooking ideas group that Meggan and I host. The link will also be in the email. You can do one or both. If you do both, you're going to be in the drawing twice. So
but they would need to post 2 times, once with yours, once with mine.
Oh, that's true. Once with yours, once with mine. Yep. If you don't want to do that, if you just want to be drawing once, you can post them in the same post once. And that way, so then that's how Facebook groups, if you're in our group and you click the hashtag of a certain month, it will pull up everyone. So if you want to see what someone has done with a specific idea, then it helps people find all of the layouts. You do not have to have photos on them. It's okay. You can make these just to hoard them. It's fine. We know they're fun. Okay. You can use any paper. That's true for all of our stuff. You do not have to use Great Memories paper. You don't have to use the same paper as us. We want you to scrap your stash. That's kind of why we started these power hours, so that people would use the paper that you have bought, right? Because if you use it up, then it's a justification to buy more, right? Or get more free, as if we all need more. Okay, other questions? Looking through the chat.
Do you have to follow the exact layouts? Because I really adapted mine. I only use certain elements.
Nope, inspiration is just fine. It all starts from the same place, and whatever you turn it into is completely fine. We're pretty easygoing. The reality is, I'm just looking forward to giving something away. We're just trying to get the hashtags right. That's the whole goal. You can post to whatever. Yeah. Okay. We had a lot of you guys joined tonight. It does feel like a holiday. It feels like we're all on vacation. Any other questions?
The throwback papers that you use, do you have any of those in your store?
I don't think so. The Mix and Match Evergreen. No, that was before I really started collecting. For those of you who don't know, I have a full resale here in my house. I have a lot of stuff, but those are really a bit too old. Well, I have Fanatic, but I don't have Mix and Match embellishments. I take that back. I have the Fanatic. Sorry. You can message me. Okay. Other questions? I like a lot of you have your screens on. I keep flipping through here to see all of you. I see you, Jean. I see you waving. I have to keep flipping screens though, because I only see 25 on here at a time. Okay. Michelle's asking about individual pages. If you have any questions about products, you can email us or email me or messaging me through Messenger is the best way for them. It's okay. We know some of you are camera shy. You don't like to show your faces. Is that how I get to know? Oh, I see Marie. I got to meet Marie in New Orleans. I went on an advisor trip, and there were some of you there, which was fun to meet some of you in person there. Yeah. Good. Kind of keep flipping. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I have one. The way Meggan did the outline for the candy canes, can you do that with most of the punches or cartridges?
You would be able to do it with quite a few of them. You probably would just need to experiment a little bit and see which ones would work best. But in the biggest thing, candy cane, the way when you overlap them, it closes the hole. So it looks like it has a solid white behind it. Not all of them will have that effect. Not all of them will, in essence, close that hole in the middle of the punch, if that makes sense. I'm going to go ahead and shut down the recording. So we'll close that off.